Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're diving deep into Livro Negro de São Cipriano das Almas by Fábio Silva Nascimento. You shared this one.
Yeah, it's quite the read. Explores Saint Cyprian, the sorcerer turned saint.
Exactly. And the book gets into rituals, spells, spiritual forces, all that. You were curious about these complex spiritual journeys in history.
Cyprian's definitely a prime example.
So our mission today is to pull out the really interesting bits, the key stuff, without getting too bogged down.
And right off the bat, the book itself has these warnings. Says only the prepared should read it.
Uh-huh. And even suggests knowing the Bible first. That tells you something.
It does. Hints at the power, maybe the danger involved. And the author, Fábio Silva Nascimento, calls himself a mage or sorcerer, offering his updated prayers.
Okay, so the book starts with a great opportunity, discovering Cyprian's mysteries.
It presents him less like a myth, more like a guide. His life showing this massive spiritual shift.
Born pagan, wealthy family around 250 AD in Antioch.
Right. And dedicated his early life to occult studies, traveled a lot.
Mastering alchemy, astrology, divination, all sorts of magic.
And it even mentions him swapping knowledge with the witch of Avora in Babylon.
Wow. So he built this reputation, respected, feared maybe, for his magic.
Exactly. Knew about sacrifices to idols, the works, a deep dive into the esoteric for sure.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. The great problem. Challenges in rituals.
Yeah, it says lots of people fail because they lack the right knowledge, the right prep.
Common mistakes like not preparing right, ignoring timing, space.
Unclear intentions, not knowing the tools needed, that sort of thing. The book stresses studying everything first.
Makes sense. Then the great cause, understanding why these errors happen.
It points to a shallow understanding of the spiritual energies. Like, people aren't really connected.
Or they ignore astrological influences, underestimate their own mental state.
Precisely. You need to respect these forces. Take study, but also intuition, it says.
Which leads to the solution detailed. Mastering the rituals and spells, like a how-to.
Sort of. Key steps. Proper prep, get your materials ready, clear intentions, know what you want.
Spiritual connection through meditation. Considering astrology, like moon phases, planetary days.
Yeah, very specific. It mentions tools like the sword of art, the pentagram, the cup.
Oh, with specific crafting instructions.
Sword of art on a Tuesday, Mars Day during the new moon.
Okay. And the pentagram.
Steel. Also Mars Day an hour for controlling spirits.
Not the cup.
Ideally gold, made on a Sunday at Sun's Day, acts as a conduit, apparently. Then there's a recap section, sort of consolidating everything, encouraging you to apply it.
And lots of warnings scattered.
Yeah.
Right. But intentions needed to be positive.
Yes. Clear intentions, proper knowledge, respect for the energies, protection, ethics, don't harm others, reflection, connecting with nature.
It also talks about what St. Cyprian's prayers supposedly do.
Right. Spiritual protection, breaking curses, prosperity, healing, stronger faith, clarity.
But it all depends on the person's faith and intention.
That's the idea. Dedication matters.
It details banishment rituals, too. Preparing the space, circle of protection.
Invoking protection, doing the banishment, maybe using sound. Then the lesser ritual of the pentagram.
That involves the Kabbalistic cross and tracing pentagrams.
Yeah, at the cardinal points, vibrating divine names. Yod He Vau He, Adonai, Ahia, Agla.
And calling on archangels. Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, Uriel.
Then closing the ritual, grounding yourself. Pretty detailed stuff.
The book lists powerful names, too. Divine names, archangels.
Words like abracadabra, Seder, Aripo, Tenet, Opera, Rhodus. Deities like Isis, Osiris, and Saint Cyprian himself.
And specific spells, like a glass of water spell.
For protection, cleansing. Also methods to ward off spirits using sage, salt, holy water crystals.
Prayer, visualization, bells, a whole toolkit.
It even has rituals for specific things. Helping someone move house using a green candle and a map.
Or diverting an enemy's attention. With a blue candle and a mirror.
Yeah, aiming to peacefully redirect them. For fatigue, there's an energy revitalization ritual. Yellow candle, citrine, rosemary oil.
And for fainting, it says see a doctor, obviously, but suggests aromatherapy, meditation as complementary things.
There's even a morning protection ritual. Meditation, affirmations, crystals, before you leave the house.
The author, Mago Fabio, includes his own prayers, too. A powerful prayer of war.
Sounds intense. Prayers for breaking curses on body, soul, spirit, linked to a covenant with God.
A prayer for a free mind, And really evocative ones like prayer of the hatchet, prayer of the sickle.
Yeah, invoking divine power against enemies, negative magic, the prayer of the dagger in action for protection and justice, and a general protection prayer.
Then it covers Cyprian's life story,
Hmm.
mixing history and legend.
Acknowledging the confusion with Cyprian, the Bishop of Carthage, but focusing on the sorcerer.
Pagan upbringing, occult mastery,
Hmm.
then meeting Justina, the Christian woman.
And converting because he couldn't affect her with magic. Her faith, the sign of the cross, was stronger.
Right. Then his struggles with demons, baptism, miracles.
And eventually martyrdom with Justina under Diocletian. His conversion is framed as this big example of divine mercy.
There are some really specific, almost strange details, too, like Cyprian being forbidden salt because of a pact.
Yeah, salt breaks enchantments, supposedly. And dark magic doesn't work in sunlight.
It touches on alchemy, solve et coagula in relation to black magic.
And this idea of egregora, the collective energy of groups, ancient sorcerers supposedly knew how to tap into this, even in churches.
And again, mentions favorable astrological times and charging things with negative energy.
Through recitations, yeah. There's an enchantment given to cleanse a place before doing strong rituals from the book. An initiate's secret for creating that egregora.
And it includes some older Christian prayers, too.
Right, like prayers to the Savior for peace of spirit, to the Virgin Mary.
So putting it all together, it's this really complex mix. Legend, spiritual practice, intense prayers.
Definitely. The lines between magic and faith get very blurry. It's a unique worldview presented there.
So considering all these details, the rituals, prayers, the warnings, it really makes you think, doesn't it? About belief, intention.
And our ongoing fascination with, well, the unseen, the emphasis on preparation, intention, understanding energies. That feels relevant regardless of belief.
Yeah. It raises questions about how we approach challenges, how we think about influence, internal and external.
And we've barely scratched the surface here. We didn't get into the specific planetary hours or the really detailed tool-making instructions.
True. Maybe it sparks your curiosity, to look deeper into Cyprian himself, or just ritual in general across different traditions.
So what's the takeaway for you listening? Maybe the importance of approaching knowledge, especially spiritual stuff, with curiosity, but also discernment.
It's a reminder that people have always tried to connect with forces beyond the everyday world in so many different ways.
And here's a final thought to chew on. In this age of information overload, how do we sort through knowledge, belief, and just the sheer power of our own focused intention?
Is there a kind of magic in the dedication and mindfulness these practices demand, even separate from any supernatural claims?
Something to think about as you navigate your own path.